All right, today is October 8, 2020. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. On the agenda today, we have Q2. Well, I guess this is no longer Q2. This is Q3, Q4 planning for the 1.20 release. We're going to go through the items that we have in our planning spreadsheet and get status updates from folks. Important dates to keep in mind, we just passed the enhancement freeze. The enhancement freeze is the deadline by which your KEP must be merged and the associated issue must be open. So if you miss that, then the feature is unlikely to ship as part of 120 unless we file an exception. The next deadline to be aware of is the code freeze, which is going to happen November 12th. So if you're working on any features, please keep those dates in mind. If you have anything that you want to discuss outside of status updates, feel free to add them to the agenda. And once we're done with planning, we'll come back to that. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the storage planning spreadsheet and start getting status updates. I'm going to create a new entry here for the current status to the left. 8. All right, so first item is CSI online offline volume resizing. Hemant, do you want to give an update on this?
I'm maybe a couple minutes late. He said he was planning on joining.
No worries. We'll come back to that. Next item is also Hemant, so we'll skip over that and go to the third item, which is volume snapshots.
I can give an update of that.
It's
Oh, okay.
Hey, Hemant, go ahead. We were talking about the CSI online offline volume resizing and then recovery from resize failure. So if you want to give updates on either or both, go for it.
Yeah. So in 120 timeline, we are working on bug fixing the read-write many and the volume deletion PVC being deleted and getting KEP finalized for recovery from resize failure, because the inline pod resizing KEP is still, discussions are ongoing and we would like to update that. There was also some movement to add secrets to node expansion RPC call. So if we have to make a change into PV spec for that, then we would like that change and allow volume expansion change that you're planning to move from storage class onto PV to go together rather than so just majority of work this quarter will be like a release will be like, yeah, nailing down those details.
Got it. And so it sounds like we're delivering a design this quarter to address a number of issues as well as some bug fixes, and both of those are on track.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Then let's jump to snapshots. Xing?
Yeah. So CAP got merged.
Yay.
Yeah. So now we are working on various tasks. So submitted a PR that moved the volume snapshot data source to GA, that's the feature gate, and also a PR that updates CRDs from V1 beta 1 to V1. So I'm going to schedule a API review soon. And then there is also metrics work for snapshot controller. Grant is working with chainchat on that. And then there's also a PR, working progress PR by Kartik using patch instead of update. And then we also have quite a few E2E tests that we need to write. So we have a few people working on them. I think Chris from Michelle's team, and Ronak, and Grant all going to work on E2 test. And then we still have a couple more that we need to find owners. So if anyone on this call is interested in helping out, please let me know. We do have this merge deadline, which is November 12th. Because each week tests are in tree, so we need to get them in by that merge deadline.
Yeah, so if anybody on the call is interested, this is a really good place to get involved. Pretty kind of not super scary. You're just gonna, start adding tests. It's a good way to learn the code base and figure out how to start contributing to the core of Kubernetes. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to Shring or me, and we'll put you in touch with the right folks. All right, moving on to the next item, non-recursive volume ownership FS group. And yeah, let's take these one by one. There's a number of permission related things that are going on. This one is non-recursive volume ownership FS group, which we want to move to beta. Hamad?
Yeah, the cap is updated, merged, and I think we have a decision that kind of solves SLinux at least as well. So we aren't stuck behind it. I think Matt from Google will be moving it to beta. Michelle, that's still right. Yeah. Can you? And yeah, so we should be good to go.
Okay. And so should I put Matt's name here as the dev?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go ahead and swap that.
Matt, if you're on the call and if I'm like, speak up if you're not doing that, because I haven't checked with you again, or if Michelle. Well, I think it's fine. Okay.
Okay. And then SLinux permission handling design, it sounded like in your status update, you mentioned that that's been unblocked as well.
Yeah, I think it is unblocked. We had a discussion with Clayton and David Eads about how we are going to solve it. It does require like this, I think Jan can give a status update as well. If he's there, he's not. So yeah, so the way we are going to solve is use mount options, but if we are going to first emit conflicting SLNS context is being used by multiple parts, same volume, they are going to report that as a metric. Then we are going to deprecate support for that and reject such paths via kubelet admission, and optionally add a flag to kubelet to re-enable old behavior if there are many users affected. But first we have to add a metric so that we know how many users are using such volume, where like they're using conflict SLNX context on same volume.
Got it. And that metric would be added this quarter?
It may not actually. I think you'll
Okay.
have to do the next quarter.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. So for now, I think this is still on track because this is a design.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item is for Ben, I guess. I guess this is the unassigned one, new design for volume file permission handling. Last status update we had was there's some overlap with recursive handling. I guess we should make a call about whether we're going to pursue anything here this quarter or punt it to next quarter.
Well, here, am I off mute? I can't figure this
Yes,
thing out.
I can hear
Okay.
you.
So I did a little bit of reading on like what the state of the art in this area is, and there are people working on the Linux kernel trying to like invent something that sucks less than the status quo. I mean, of course, the Linux kernel always has problems because certain solutions get rejected for, other reasons. But I am hopeful that I don't know if it's available today, but something will be available in the next few Linux releases that might make this problem less bad. Of course, I don't know how that helps us in practice because a lot of people run relatively old Linux kernels for Kubernetes. So it's like it may take a while for the real solution to sort of propagate in, but I'm hopeful that there will eventually be a way where you can fix the file system user ID, GID mappings relative to the process space UID, GID mappings, such that like you don't have to play these funny games that Kubernetes plays with reassigning ownership. I mean, we could get to a place where it just works. So that is my dream, but I I don't know when it can be realized or what exactly we need to push on to make that happen.
Makes sense.
You,
So I
you may
think,
want to reach out to David Howells at Red Hat, because he does a lot of kernel work for Red Hat, and he wrote FS Cache, and he wrote the AFS kernel driver.
Yeah, I think there are some Red Hat people involved in this work. It's VFS layer work, and the kind of stuff they were talking about was, you know, like shifting bind mounts, where you can do a bind mount to a file system that like shifts all the UIDs and GIDs over like by 1,000,000 or by whatever number you want when you access it through the bind mount, and like those kinds of things would, if we had them, kind of help here, because that's basically how Kubernetes also does it, is it sort of shifts the UID GID space over. So like something like that, or I have seen other solutions, and there are, all the kernel people are aware of this stuff, I think. It's just that I don't know if the Kubernetes people and the Linux people are talking to each other. And then of course there's Windows, which is an entirely separate thing that we can't forget. But it has the same class of problems potentially. And maybe a need for a totally different class of solutions, because Windows just does this very differently.
are you aware of anything going on the Windows side?
No, I don't pay attention to the details on Windows, but
Mhm.
I'm just aware that like something needs to be done in this area, and it
Yes,
might look
definitely.
wildly different than the Linux version.
Hey, we did discuss this a little while back in SIG Windows. It seems like pretty much in the Windows kernel side, there is no support. There's a concept of permissions going, like special permissions being attached to a user identity that starts off the container. So it's kind of like a free for all. Basically, that concept is just not there.
So Windows doesn't like do the UID mapping where you think you're root in the container, but you're actually not outside the container. It does something different
Windows
than that.
has a much more complex security model.
Yeah.
And this is tied very much to the file system topology. So
Okay.
it doesn't fit the tuple model of the Linux environment of the UID, GID.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I hope someone who does understand Windows well and how Windows containers in particular works is thinking about, you know, what do you do when you have any kind of mapping, and how that affects volumes that are attached and their owners, so you don't end up in the situation we have on Linux where you can't write any files.
So I guess the question for both of these tasks here is there any further progress that can be made this quarter on it? For the first task, it sounds like we should punt this until there's something better available in the kernel. Is that right, Ben?
Yeah. I think, I don't think we should try anything crazy until Linux offers us something new that we don't have.
I think that seems reasonable.
I can see that a VFS module might be very helpful in the Linux kernel space. I cannot visualize how we might do that in the Windows kernel.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what's your advice on the Windows side, Deep? Anything we can do in this quarter, or this is a wait and see what emerges problem?
Yeah, I think it's the latter.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, do we have anyone interfacing with Microsoft kernel team on this at the moment?
Yeah, we do through SIG Windows. There was a couple of folks from the kernel team who specifically called out that, you know, they haven't seen a lot of requests around this, and therefore this is pretty low in their priority relative to other things like enabling privileged containers overall. At this point.
Thanks.
All right, thank you both. So I'm going to just cross this out for the quarter. It sounds like we're going to be unlikely to make progress here. All right, next item is CSI entry read-only handling. I believe I poked Humble for a status update. He said code is up for review, and I would like to get confirmation on SC flag, storage class flag, to take it to completion. So I'll go ahead and copy that status over. Okay. Next item is issues related to assuming volumes or mount points. Andy or Michelle, any updates on this?
I think Jan actually started reviewing this PR. This is about the mount point one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jan took a look at it. I think he had like one concern maybe, and we'll have to follow up on it.
Cool, thank you. All right, next item is storage capacity tracking with Patrick. Anyone have updates on that? Kept merged? Any, or kept updated?
The feature's still going to remain in alpha, but I think Patrick is going to continue closing out some of the review feedback and comments from the alpha.
Okay, sounds good. Next item is PVC inline ephemeral volumes. Working with CSI driver, also Patrick, and then I guess the next one is also related CSI ephemeral volumes. Jan or Michelle, you want to give updates on both of those?
Yeah, so they're not being promoted this cycle either. So I think, what is it? Which item? PVC ephemeral volumes. That one should be alpha.
Okay.
We're not targeting beta this quarter. But yeah, both of these items, I think we need to have a meeting to figure out what to do with the APIs, because we have two APIs that are very similar, but not quite. So I think that is going to be a major thing we need to resolve before we can promote any of these features.
Got it. Makes sense. So it looks like next step is the alignment of these two APIs. Do you know who's going to set up the follow-up meeting on this? Would that be Patrick? Or we'll follow up offline on over email?
Yeah, Patrick had sent out an email already to the SIG,
Okay.
but it didn't really get response.
Got
I
it.
think we'll have to follow up with him to set up a meeting.
Sounds good. All right, cool. Next item is spreading over failure domains, which is very closely related to volume group API. Shing, you want to give an update on those two?
Yeah, so the spreading part is dependent on the second one, so we haven't really had any discussions. And the volume group one, I'm supposed to update the PR. I have not got a chance to. I will do that soon.
Sounds good. Okay, next set of items is for the CSI generic drivers. We have iSCSI, a fiber channel driver, and Flex and a Flex adapter. Fiber channel and Flex, we are just planning to deprecate. And then the iSCSI one, there is a community maintained repo, and that repo needed image building, testing, CI/CD documentation, that sort of thing. Michelle, I think this latter two, or we're just planning to deprecate. Any updates on the iSCSI one?
No, I haven't made progress on this.
Okay.
But yeah, the fiber channel and Flex driver is just going to be deprecated and archived. For iSCSI, I need to follow up with some of the folks that originally were interested in helping develop the driver and sort of follow up with them on next steps.
Okay, sounds good. Hopefully we can get traction on that. Otherwise, I think this may end up becoming one of those archive drivers as well. I think that's one of the challenge with community maintained CSI drivers. All right, next item is moving out Gluster FS provisioner. And that was Humble. Humble status update is the code has already been moved out. Cool. And it looks like there is end-to-end testing pending. Okay, seems like good progress on that. And then the next two items are NFS related provisioners. Karen, you want to give an update on these? Looks like Karen's not here. Anybody else want to give an update on Karen's behalf? Okay, we'll keep moving. Next item is volume snapshot namespace transfer. Mike, any updates on this? Mark that as no update. We'll get an update next time, hopefully. CSI volume health, Xing.
Yeah, so we are working on implementing volume health in the host CSI host path driver right now. So after that, we can add ET tests for that. There is another idea, which is to add ET tests just using the CSI mock driver. So we will be looking into that as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Xing. I'm really excited about this space to see where it goes. Next up is generic populator data source. I saw Ben's KEP.
Yeah, so this KEP is not merged, and that's because I realized as part of the changes to the design that it needs to be alpha for at least one more release, because we need to introduce like a new validating webhook, and once we move to beta, it will be too late to do that. So so I'm proposing that we do the validating webhook in this release, keep it alpha. If that goes well, then we look at beta in 121.
Okay.
And the KEP is still in flux because I'm lazy. I haven't.
No worries. So do we want to switch this to keep it in alpha this quarter? So let me go ahead and do that.
Yes, please.
And I'll mark this as started since the KEP has been started and volume health is started.
And there's a PR against external provisioner or CSI provisioner, whatever the repo is called, that prototypes the actual webhook if people want to look at that.
Nice. Cool. All right, thanks, Ben, for that update. Next is Cozy.
We record that PR?
Sorry, what was that, John?
The PR number.
Yeah.
Let me dig that up.
Yeah, feel free to throw it into the doc if you'd like.
The PR is 2056.
An external provisioner, right?
No, this is a Kubernetes. That's the KEP. The KEP
oh,
PR.
26. Okay.
The external provisioner PR is 491 in external provisioner.
Saw a very low number, and I was like, can't be Kubernetes. All right. Next item is Cozy. Sid or anybody else on the line?
Yeah,
Jeff?
this is Srini. Thanks, Saad, for the review. We have sat together as a team yesterday, addressed most of the questions. There are lots of details that we filled in around the API based on the review. There are a few more outstanding comments on the PR. The KEP is taking good shape right now. Hopefully it gets merged. On the coding front, we are doing good. right now. We have progress on all the components and shooting for a milestone end-to-end tests with greenfield buckets. So hopefully we'll have KEP merged soon.
Nice. All right, thank you all for the hard work on that. And yeah, I've been watching the KEP. It's gotten so many comments now that you get the GitHub unicorn error very frequently, which means
That's true.
it's a very, very popular KEP. So thank you for all your hard work on that. Okay, next item here is FS group support in CSI. We should probably move this up with the rest of the permissions related things. This is assigned to Christian Huffman. Last status update was needed to add end-to-end tests. Any further updates on this?
Yeah, the KEP was updated, it made it in and was merged. We're also needing to relax validation slightly so that we can add additional enum types in 120, 121. But the end-to-end test is still in progress. I'm working on it this week. Hopefully we'll have PR in the next week or so for review.
Awesome, thank you, Christian. Go ahead and mark both of those as started. Okay, next item is CSI migration. John, do you want to talk about the core here?
Yeah, I'm afraid I've dropped the ball in the last 2 weeks. I had 3 rather unexpected visits to hospital.
Uh-oh.
And have been kind of out and, but I have a meeting with Matt Curry tomorrow, and I hope that will set me free to move on.
All right, sounds good. Health is #1, so take care of yourself, and
thank you.
We'll get to this. Next set of items is CSI migration for the various cloud providers. First up is vSphere. Divian, any updates?
Yeah, it looks like he's not on the call. So I know that QE has been doing testing still, so find some issues and been fixing those issues. Overall, it's been good, but I still have not got a confirmation on the backport status. There are still a couple of backports, I think. Looks like have not landed yet. So
Got it.
still
Okay.
waiting for those.
Sounds good. Go ahead and mark that as started. Next up is Azure Disk and Azure File CSI migration, currently assigned to Andy. Last status update here was the PRs were out. Any further updates here?
Nope. I think Andy's continuing to work on the Azure File, going to beta. Azure Disk is still going to remain the same.
Okay, sounds good. All right, next item is GCE. I don't believe Matt Carey's on the line, right? So Matt Carey is officially assigned to this and will hopefully be giving us status updates soon. AWS, we have Matt
I would
Wong.
probably, oh, sorry, for Azure Disk, I would probably defer that for this quarter. I don't think there's going to be any work on that.
So leaving that in beta, and should we just drop it all together to tracking?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
There's no plans to move it to GA this quarter.
Okay, so go ahead and get that updated. I'm just going to cross it out. Okay. And on the AWS side, any updates from Matt Wong? Okay, we'll keep moving and hopefully get a status update offline at some point. Next item is OpenStack Cinder. Any updates on that? I think we were looking for a new owner for this.
I'm sorry, I'm too far out of the loop on this to even be able to meaningfully comment.
Okay, no worries. Is there anybody else on the call that is familiar with OpenStack Cinder or knows the folks working on it and is willing to follow up and see if we can find an owner? Okay, I'm gonna leave this as need to find an owner. I think what it comes down to for these volume plugins is we're gonna need to find an owner who's willing to take on CSI migration or agree that we're going to do a deprecation without a migration, which means disable the plugin in tree. And
what's the timeline for that?
I think minimum it would have to be a year
I mean, like
after
when would we
deprecation.
want to? How long do we want to wait before pulling the trigger and saying?
I think I'd like to get an answer before the end of the year on the remainder of these volume plugins and see what the plan for the future is. Otherwise, I think we're going to be putting the cloud provider migration at risk.
I mean, maybe we need to put the message out that says, either come up with a plan by the end of the year or you're out,
Yeah,
and that might
yeah.
light a fire.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just don't know who the right set of people to send that message to is.
Yeah.
So at least for the OpenStack Cinder one, in the enhancement issue, I think someone was commenting on it.
Okay.
We can maybe reach out to them.
Okay, that's good to know.
Was it Andrew who was because I saw his name as the owner of this feature in that features, the cube features.go file. But it's probably not working on it now, but I don't know.
Does anybody want to take an action item to follow up with this person on the enhancement issue?
Hemant here. There are some people at Red Hat who are working on supporting the Cinder driver. I wonder if I'll try to ping them and see if we can
Okay.
get some owners. No promises though at this stage because
Okay.
it all
No
depends.
worries.
I'll have to.
I'm going to put your name as a question mark on the reviewer side just to see if we can make any progress. But if not, no worries. I'm not expecting any miracles here yet.
Okay.
All right, next up we have CephFS and CephRBD. Humble provided us an update here as well. Further testing enhancements are in progress, so looks like this is underway. Thank you, Humble, for that update. Next item is immutable secrets and config maps. Wojtek, this would remain in beta for 120. Michelle, do we need to track this or can I just cross it out?
You can cross it.
Okay.
I think he's going to target 121 for GA.
Makes sense. All right, next item is the PVCs created by stateful set don't get auto deleted. KK, are you on the line by any chance?
Yes.
Awesome.
So we tried for the 120 deadline, but we didn't meet it. So there are still comments which we have got. We are trying to address them. But there's been significant momentum in the last week on this.
Nice. Okay, glad to hear. So what I'll do is go ahead and switch this to design for the quarter. We'll get the design nailed down and then we can target an alpha next quarter. All right.
So volume expansion, I have not spent time on it. I've been focused on the like the PVC auto create only.
Okay.
But once the KEP pushes out, I'll spend more time on this.
Okay. And do you want to keep it in this quarter or
Yes.
do you want to shift it? Okay.
Yes.
So we'll focus on this above is Okay, next item is execution hook. Any updates on that?
Yeah, so this one didn't make it. We're not going to go alpha this time. We actually have a lot of comments on that cap, but there are some concerns on the API design part, and we have not reached consensus on some of those things yet. Like the notification, right now we have the support selector. So there are questions on, so if it's pod selector, then when do you decide to stop picking up the new pods? So now there are different ideas. One is just to have one pod instead of a pod selector. The other one is to have a pod list instead of pod selector. And then there are also some concerns on the status update. I think Jordan prefers to have a one pod status, but that means that we do need to have just one pod in the notification. But Tim has not responded on that, whether he's okay with this one-to-one mapping yet. So if it's a one pod, will be more straightforward, or if we do a pod list, then we may need to do this thing like what I did for this endpoints slice thing. So maybe we need to do that, but that I'm thinking probably we'll need to have another API object to do that. So I need to think about that if we want to do a pod list. So from the Quiet's point of view, now I'm thinking actually pod selector is not a good choice because the backup controller will need to know what pods are selected before sending those requests. It needs to know whether the Quiet is successful or not. It can't have that this like a partial undetermined list of pods, right? So so I think I'm going to update the cap maybe just with 2 alternatives, and then pin Tim and Jordan and see if they can agree and maybe pick one of them. So yeah, so that's the status. Yes, I think this
Cool.
is.
Thank you very much. That is a massive, massive cap. So thank you for helping drive that. I think especially the fact that it's cross-SIG and a lot of other folks are interested in it. I think this is very valuable to the community. So thank you. All right, next item here is the mount library, splitting it out into a new repo, adding end-to-end tests.
Yeah, this is Srini. Actually, one last item there is to remove utilsmount from the K8s rendering. But before that, I opened a PR against the CA advisor, which is dependent on utilsmount. That PR did not get any traction yet. I need to ping someone there. I don't know, but once that is merged, I think I'll work with Michelle to remove this and
Nice.
avoid any confusion. So
Sounds like pretty solid progress. Thank you, Serini.
thanks.
Next item and last item is prioritization on volume capacity. Chris left a comment here from August 28th. I think this may actually be out of date. On last status update, we had nothing. Anybody want to comment on this?
Yeah, Ye Chang is going to work on implementing this feature in alpha this release.
Which Chang?
Ye Chang?
chat. Okay. And do we have any cap or anything required?
Yeah, there is a cap and it's
Merged?
been approved. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I think Chris's comment on this is unrelated.
Got it. I'm going to go ahead and resolve that then. Okay. Chris, if you're on the line, let me know if there's anything that you want to discuss on that. We can discuss offline.
Yeah, I think Chris wanted to add something related to snapshots, but we can probably track that as part of the overall snapshots feature.
Makes sense. Okay. Anything else in terms of planning? All right, then let's go ahead and switch back to the planning spreadsheet. And looks like we have a miscellaneous item. Gary, you want to talk about this? Well, if not, I can read it out. Looks like October 22. There's
I was muted, sorry.
Oh, there you go. Go for it.
Yeah, this is a longer version of a talk I gave at the Vault conference. It's really for, novices, but it's kind of an inside out look and talks about my experiences with CSI. So it might be interesting to anybody who might be thinking about working on a CSI driver or learning about CSI, because
Nice.
it kind of covers that, including everything from PVCs up.
Cool. Well, thank you for that shout out. Anybody that's interested, this might be good to attend and check out. Do you have any idea on how folks can attend, what they need to do?
Yeah, I think, isn't that link active?
I think the link is in there. Yep.
Oh, the link doesn't work?
No, the link is there. Is it just a matter of registering there?
Yeah, it's a free conference. There's a lot of interesting talks. It's off the record. Well, I won't say off the record because this is recorded. This sponsor is a big name.
Cool. All right, thank you for that. And anything else folks have today? All right, well, you get 15 minutes back in your day then. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.